Right.
But it broke him down something awful. I mean, it took years for me to get him to understand he's not Jesus Christ, you know, and this was a particular programming done to him, and there's a few people in the world like him, so he's not the only one.
Well, I can actually tell you, because you probably don't know that much about Camelot, but in my work, I have people write to me all the time this kind of stuff. So there are many people out there being programmed, what I call them Manchurian candidates, basically.
Yeah. There was a Collins that I used to talk to quite a bit, and she told me she was afraid for my son because she thought, because there for a while he had such rage because of his anger over what happened to him. You, and I won't say this on camera, his name I should say, but you interviewed the man that was my son's handler, his abductor, and his torturer.
Interesting.
From age 2 on. I'll tell you after the camera's off.
Okay, yeah. I actually have a clue, but I'm not going to say anything here. Okay, just to go back to you. So you were in a Kentucky facility where?
I have, you know, now that I think about it, from like age 4 to age 10, I don't really have much recollection of anything.
Okay. All right, that's fine. And then at 10, I mean, what I'm trying to get at here is you brought up the Kentucky facility, so I'm willing to go there. But can you say what age you were at when
10,
you were
12 years old.
10
That's
to
when
12.
they the memories pick back up.
Okay, so you're at the Kentucky facility. Are you living somewhere at the same time?
Maryland.
So you're going
DC,
back and
Maryland.
forth.
Yeah.
All right. Now you said you had ETs, that you were in meetings with ETs with your parents. When was that happening?
Oh goodness. You know, if I could give an age, I would, but I don't remember the exact age.
No, but it doesn't have to be exact. Like
okay.
a span in your teens, later.
Oh no, I was still
earlier.
little. This might have been when I was somewhere between 3, 4 years old, maybe even 5. I'm not sure. Maybe my. It's so confusing.
Sure.
I'm still trying to sort through all the files to figure this out myself.
Right, but would you say, because I have questions, in other words, I'm not so concerned other than because it's helpful when a person's listening to the story to get a kind of chronology.
Right, absolutely.
But the chronology is not as important as the information which surrounds the incidents. So what I'm getting at here is that...
I was bitsy. I was still bitsy.
You were small?
Yeah.
Okay, and when you saw the ETs, what did they look like?
There was many different races. There was a human one. There was a couple grays in there, tall, short. Absolutely, there were reptilians, but I'm a 50% reptilian myself, actual hybrid. So they were there, and my parents were sitting. They were on the couch, and I was so little. I used to go under the cushions and scare my family. When they would sit on me, I go rawr, you know, like a kid, you know, little kids do, but I didn't know what was getting ready to happen. But I put myself under these covers, and next thing I know, I have all these ETs sitting on me, and I personally believe they were consciously aware of me under them, obviously because of their telepathic abilities, and but they didn't let on. And my mother and father are sitting there with guns. I've never seen a gun in my house before that. And it is my belief they were wanting to take me. And my parents would not let them. And
Okay.
my parents kept telling them, she's under contract, she can't be taken.
Okay, but were they good ETs or bad ETs, would you
I
say?
never got a bad feeling. I never got a bad feeling.
But your parents had guns. So, but your parents were torturing you, so those weren't necessarily the good guys, right?
You're
Okay.
right.
I mean, I'm stating the obvious, but I just want to be clear here.
Yeah.
So but,
I could have been, I think that ultimately maybe they were trying to take me away from all the pain, because never once have I ever been hurt by any extraterrestrial, no alien being. It has always, always, always been an Earth human that has tortured me.
Okay. Well, I have a lot of different places we can go, but before I go there, when did this memory come back to you?
I've always had that memory.
That never went away?
That never went away from me.
Okay.
This is something I told my husband back in 1987 when I met him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were cognizant of ETs and that whole side of life, so to speak.
Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you this. As you know, as a member of an Illuminati family, you grow up, they're doing these things to you, but the things aren't just done because they're bad people per se.
Right.
They actually have a purpose in mind. It's a twisted purpose, but it actually has an objective.
I know.
Are
and
you
I know
aware
what
of
you-
this?
Yeah, I'm extremely aware of it, and that's why I've forgiven them.
Okay.
I'm okay. You know, I know what happened ultimately had to bring me to a good part, but I had to be broken down in a way that was very binding to this 3D world. I had to be bound to this world, but I had to be bound to it through the pain that Gaia was feeling also, you know.
Okay. Did they ever sit you down and communicate it to you in, you know, XYZ? Did they talk about it?
No.
So where did you learn?
Soul cell memory.
Through meditation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And when did you start to meditate?
About a year and a half ago.
That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're...
I took a year time away from even being consciously a mother and a wife. I took myself and I sat in my bedroom, and I would lock my door at times, and I would sit there with the TV off. I would have no computer with me, and I would just meditate on my own DNA. And my DNA, I knew that my DNA would tell me everything, and it has.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I do have to interject that my brother, who's the Rockefeller, told me that I tried to talk to him before about everything because I knew my mom wasn't my mom. I knew that things were askew. I knew that all these ETs were coming into my home and everything I told you. And I was trying to put my own puzzle pieces together, and I'm like, you know, what's going on here? And he said, there's absolutely no way I'm telling you. He said, but in 3 years, you're going to come back to me. And in 3 years, you're going to ask me the question, am I right about everything about myself? And he said, at that moment is the moment I'm going to tell you that you're absolutely correct. And in 3 years, I went back to him, and I didn't remember the conversation with him about this until after I had asked him, am I right about everything? And he said the one-word answer was yes.
Okay.
And then I remembered asking him, talking to him about it.
Okay, now why do you call a Rockefeller a brother?
We have the same ET DNA.
Okay, so you believe you're related on the ET side. What about is there a marriage between the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds?
They're all interbred.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a dumb question in a sense, but what I meant is, were you aware of a specific,
No.
you know, bloodline relation?
No, my brother was made in Area 51. You probably know who my brother is, but please don't say it on camera. He is vicious.
Okay.
And people call him a fraud, and he's not a fraud. I have witnessed what he can do.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting trajectory. Let me ask you, if you say your brother was made in Area 51, you mean he was a test tube baby kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay. Does he know that?
Yes. He's a fully conscious being here. He was groomed in the Rockefeller family to be at the top. And he's a very secret at the top person.
Is he head of MJ12? You don't have to answer that.
And I'm not going to.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Let me ask you this. Growing up, going through this trajectory, you're saying your real sort of awakening, though, only happened like 3 years ago?
Yeah, it's been between like maybe about the 3 to 5 year time span. I started having a little like, I would tell my husband, things are askew about my family. You know, I know it. I know that there's something going on here. And then when my son had his breakdown, it was like a flood started happening in my family immediately. Just everything came. And the SS that did the stuff to my son was the actual first person that we went to about everything.
Really?
And I didn't.
That wasn't exactly the best
No,
choice.
but I didn't know that at the time.
Okay.
the afterwards is when I found out that he was the handler.
Right. Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course.
I was led to him because I just, it can only be divine that you're led to something like that, you know? It really is, because that was just telling me that it was time to find out everything.
Okay. Now, what you told me is that you hadn't, when you went on stage, although it's the first time you did it kind of that way, that you said you had been talking about it.
I did 2 really itty-bitty radio shows that it was more like talking to a group of people, you know, maybe 10, 12 people or so.
Okay.
And so it was like just having a get-together with family, you know, or friends or something. But I did a radio show in January called The Galactic Connection with Erica Getch. And that was my first real, like, coming out to everyone.
Okay.
That had 300,000 live viewers, and I didn't know it until afterwards. And if I had known it during it, I probably would have stumbled all over everything, because I'm just a nervous wreck telling all of this.
Okay, well, no one would know that. I mean, you have a wonderful sense of poise, but I'm afraid it came from a very dark circumstance.
It did.
So, you know, as much as I can say that it, you know, you have maintained a great sense of poise within all of it. But
I did a lot of work to get here. You know, a lot of work on myself in that year to be able to be calm enough.
Okay. And so did you plan to come forward?
You know, a part of me always wanted to say something once I started learning it, but the more I got harassed and the more directed energy on me and the more my brother pulled the hits on me and stuff, I stepped back just ever so slightly once in a while. And when January came, I don't know, it just was like, I knew it was time. It was just time. I know it's the beginning instead of what people thought was the end last year. I know this is the beginning. So if I don't begin to tell and begin to disclose everything I know, then I'm hiding a very vital part, because my father ultimately was someone who was a very, very dark creature in this world. And I have a lot of guilt about what my father did, because I'm here at the summit with people that some of them are as old as me, or some of them were being programmed during the time my father was in there. So I feel guilt that my father has done this to these people. And I feel like if I don't come out, then I don't release them either. You know?
Okay, but I understand who you say your father was, more or less, but we're also talking about the entire Rothschild family, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of, you know, the lineage of this group of people, right, you understand that the reptilian influence on them.
100%.
Okay. And yet you fully acknowledge that you're half reptilian, right?
Absolutely.
And when we talked off camera a bit, you and I both discussed the fact that not all reptilians are bad.
That has been my mantra from the beginning, because I have never had a bad experience with them. I've not been subjected to my family, the Rothschild family, from, you know, since I was little, or on the other side or whatever. But so I don't have the darkness of that to compare it to, because every reptilian I came across was always kind to me and gentle with me. In the Pentagon, they would sit me in a chair, and I would sit there just like a little, you know, little kid does, swinging my feet back and forth, just looking. And there would be a row of them in front of me, and they would, you know, and just like that, and just stare at me and just look at me. And it was the oddest thing, but they did it so much that I became comfortable with it. And one time when I was in the Kentucky facility, one tried to get me away from the humans so that I wouldn't be tortured anymore. He said I had enough. He kept telling them, she's had enough, let her go, release her. And they said no. Another person that said she's under contract. She cannot be released. This contract is a lifetime contract. And so he looked at me, and I've never in my life seen a reptilian cry, and this reptilian shed tears. And he said to me that I can't do anything more for you. They won't stop. So what I'm going to do for you right now is a gift. And that's when my lights went blank.